Peter reminded me I had to go live, but I had to run and do a couple things real quick. And he's like, "You went live?" I'm like, "Oh, yes, 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 I'm going to go live." Anyways, no, it's been great. Hope you guys had a wonderful morning. We had an absolutely incredible morning here. It is now 1:04 Green Bay time. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn. Everybody knows because you're on my pages. I'm the founder of The Wellness Way, founder of Neo Innovations, founder of Big Real Estate Developments and stuff like that. So, yes, but my main focus, as always, is healthcare. So, once again, thank you for all the emails. I will say this again. Thank you for all the emails. One time again, thank you for all the emails. I really appreciate it. I had somebody say something to me that was heartfelt, and I want to talk about it for a second before we go to our question and answer. I know, and I understand that, they're looking for the old TikTok stuff going on, and people say, "Doc, what's your opinion?" I think when you major in minor things, and you make them sound worse than they are, nobody wins. We have, they're worried about an app that if you understand technology like I do and stuff, and I don't even know a fraction of what a lot of these people know, but how data is transferred and how it's secure and stuff like that, I'm no more worried about TikTok than I'm worried about Instagram or Facebook because they all use the same things. And yet they're worried about Chinese data, yet Fauci is still in his position and not in prison. You guys are, the government's more worried about, TikTok than they are worried about Fauci's criminal record and everything he's done and stuff, allegedly and stuff. Why don't you spend more time investigating him? People say, and I can get downright angry. And the person said, I'm surprised more people aren't angry. Well, I'm not, because Travis and I were having a conversation this morning, and he put a post out on Facebook, which I thought was brilliant. There's more people upset about the Packers losing than what Fauci and others, these government officials, do to our country. And I put my time, energy, and money fighting these things and supporting proper people to be in office so they can keep our civil liberties there. But, it's just really sad. So I thank you for your email. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything that you want to keep private, and I won't use this guy's name, but it's pflynn@thewellnessway.com, pflynn@thewellnessway.com. And the greatest thing you can always do is people say, "Well, Doc, I don't have a lot of money like you, and I can't donate to people. I can't hire civil liberties attorneys. What can I do?" Take a stand. Just take a stand. Someone says something about the bird flu, be prepared and counter it back, And on top of it, here's what happens. I don't care if there's a huge pandemic, a true one that way. The government should not be involved in any of it that way. You know what I'm saying? Because they're just going to, remember, they take an opportunity for tragedy, and we see our history of politics that way. They use it to their advantage. Just like 9/11. The Patriot Act was nothing patriotic about it, if you knew anything about it. It wasn't patriotic. It was actually anti-patriotic. And Bush was horrible. Bush was a horrible president. Horrible, horrible, horrible in every single way. Obama was no different, and Trump was actually a little bit of hope and stuff during time, and I'm basing it all on policy, and obviously, Biden was a mess, and now Trump has an opportunity to probably go down as one of the greatest presidents in history if he goes through with his agenda. But I think I'm more excited about Kash Patel just going having the director of the FBI looking at all the criminals that are there, and then it'll restore some faith in some of the government things. Well, let me see a question. Unless you're really, 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 really poor and you don't really care that much for your kids, and there's a lot of people that act that way and do it where they just dump their kids off on schools. Somebody tell me the last time that anybody was positive about the educational system of the United States. Anybody like public school? Do you say anybody really want their kids to go to public school? And now there's some people that just can't afford to send their kids to private, but do you really like your public school? Most people do not. So anyways, and here's what happens this, and I laugh and people say, Doc, you do talk about politics a lot. Yeah, because they've involved themselves in healthcare, they involve themselves in your children, they involve themselves in how you govern. If you're not involved in politics after what happened during COVID, I'd be more upset at you than me talking about it. So that being said, we're gonna have a great question and answer here. We got a lot of questions and stuff. I'm already getting emails right now. So if you do have a question for me, you just don't want somebody to see it, you can email me at pflynn@thewellsway.com. So Trinity's getting, are you changing the cameras? Oh, just comment on them. All right. So we have a bunch of people in here. We have Aaron, we have Luke, we have Dr. Pete, we have Hunter, we have Trinity, and we have Tom. Tom took over as running all the studios now. He did an amazing job this morning, killing it and stuff like that. And he learned about that. I go at a high pace, and he was at a high pace with me, only being here for some weeks. Pretty impressive, actually. Usually most people have a seizure by this time. Not a real physical seizure, but just a mental seizure and stuff. So, all right, Trinity and Hunter, what do we got here?
Are humidifiers safe?
Are humidifiers safe? They're needed in certain houses and certain households. So, yeah, I think that as long as you can put some essential oils and stuff in them that way, they'll be a decent thing to use.
Tips for headaches due to being on the no sugar challenge?
Hydration, magnesium, and potassium would probably be the best things I would say to start with. And throw some turmeric in there just because of the systemic changes in inhibition it has to do with some of the inflammatory markers.
How can you help rebuild cartilage in the knee joints? Possible osteoarthritis present. Thank you. We love you here in the UK.
Thank you for the kind words. I really do appreciate it. When you look at rebuilding laying tissue, you have to take the stress off the tissue. And so that makes it very difficult because, especially if it's a knee, make sure that, with the osteoarthritis or any osteophytes where there's, bone spurs, that might be a little more difficult. You might need some surgery. Remember, if you look at things like boswellia, turmeric, collagen, eat plenty of proteins, your body's going to do the best it can as long as you put it back in the regenerative anabolic state. But boswellia would be the first thing I'd be looking at.
Can you talk a little bit about PCOS?
Yes, PCOS, probably the most common condition that I dealt with my whole career, okay? When you look at, it's a very complex thing, okay? But the best place to start is looking at all the androgens, where, for example, is androgen dominance is very common. That means one or many of the hormones can be elevated, meaning DHEA, androstenedione, testosterone, DHT, and they can be elevated. And now what that does now, obviously the hormonal response, because hormones are just a messenger, can lead to polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so therefore, the things that you want to start with is actually making sure that you're, that you see if you're testosterone dominant mainly or DHT, which is even worse. And that's why if you ever notice, there's a lot of correlation between that and insulin resistance, which, for example, is just high blood sugar for way too long. Now insulin isn't as effective as it was. It's resistant to what's going on. So therefore, drop your sugar levels. That's why they even give you metformin during the process. Bring your sugar intake down, move a little bit more towards keto. Make sure now remember, I say a little bit more keto. I still like fiber a lot, so it's really good. Then what happens is when you look at some of the things that are going to help. White peony will be one of the most important things because it's going to help aromatase move the androgens in the direction of more of the estrogens, which is going to have significant health benefit for any woman to keep those levels normal. If you look at them, what happens is this: make sure you have really good liver health, because you have fatty liver, you have all some of the other factors that are going on with that way. It's going to be hard to actually eliminate, remove, convert when those things do happen like that. So I would start there, but you understand that definitely it can be affected in a positive way from some of the things that should be done.
My job causes a lot of bad stress, but I can't quit due to finances.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Totally understand. People are in so many situations to where they have a good job. Finances are good because it pays well that way. But it does wreak some havoc on your body and mental state that way. Whenever you're stuck in a situation, you just have to help your body adapt to the stress. So therefore, I would be giving my body adaptogenic things like ashwagandha, L-theanine. If the stress is really bad, it's creating some issues, then I would do California poppy to calm that nervous system down. And what I would do is you're gonna find this interesting. If you happen to have a job where you are at a desk, see if you can have a standing desk. See if you can have a vibe plate. See if you can have the ability to move, because the more that you move, the less stress you'll have. I think the most underrated stress reliever is exercise, and even just movement. Vibe plates are fantastic for movement that way. So I love when my staff, now granted we're lucky we have a clinic attached to the headquarters, I love when my staff walks over and just goes stands on the vibe plate. Because you know why? Helps reduce stress, helps get blood flow, helps circulation, helps lymphatic, helps proprioceptions, helps muscles, and even just 5 minutes on there. And if you're a really good employee, I don't think any employer would have any problem with you doing something that actually keeps your stress levels down. So, because you want the people that are in your culture, everybody that works at the company to be in a good state. So, yep.
My 1-year-old had a febrile seizure.
Yep.
Looking into supporting her gut and her brain.
Yep.
However, what are your suggestions for preventing a seizure during her fever? Any herbs safe enough at that age?
Most herbs are safe to take at that age based on what's going on with them that way, and make sure that. But here's what happens: this. Just even temperature regulation by water. Trinity, you asked the question. I think Trinity knows this because she's seen it done with Felicity and things like that. But when Trinity was little, she got a fever. Thank God she did. It was great. Her immune system had to respond. So Daddy would jump in the bathtub, and we'd have a lukewarm, kind of little chillier water that way, and we'd just jump in the bath. Did it with Faith, did it with Trinity, did it with Calista, did it with Felicity, and we just let their temperature regulate a little better in water and stuff. And Christy's done that a ton of times with the girls. I've done a bunch of time with the girls. The fever is trying to respond to some pathogen, and viral or bacterial or even parasitic, and trying to kill it off, and temperature is a really good way of doing it. So therefore, and if your temperature does get too high, always scary about brain damage, you'll have a febrile seizure before that happens to release the heat. But what I do is this. Things that are neuroprotective for the brain are omega-3 fatty acids. That's why I think I like cod liver oil so much, just because my girls have taken cod liver oil since they were babies. They actually truly had supplementation before they had food, which is kind of food. They actually had cod liver oil, they had Albizia, they had Megabiotic, they had a ton of herbs while they were still breastfed. And then Christy took them while she was breastfed, so I guarantee you the milk production had some of that in there, so it actually turned out pretty good. So it's definitely a good booby concoction and stuff on there. So, yeah.
Suggestions for handling dandruff. Husband hair thinning and dandruff shampoo is too harsh for his scalp.
Yeah, couple things. Start internally means he's getting some androgen dominance or some hormonal issues. There's some fatty acid and vitamin D deficiencies, vitamin A deficiency. So if you take cod liver oil, you get vitamin D and vitamin A, but I'd like to see vitamin A go up. Then take a mixture of castor oil and pumpkin seed oil and put it on your fingers and have him rub it into his scalp and stuff. And ladies, castor oil and pumpkin seed oil, if you want to really keep some pretty awesome thick hair. Remember, I have 4 daughters that take care of their beauty. And, we were just talking about this last night. I swear it's kind of funny. Calista and Faith were always like, always prim and proper and showered and make this. Trinity and Felicity, and remember, and Faith and Calista look like, and Trinity and Felicity look like. It was kind of funny because to get them to take a shower was always like a battle. Felicity the other day, hey, you got to take a shower. I took one 3 days ago. Yeah, but your hair looks like a grease ball and stuff like that. It was kind of funny. They're all different. But it's kind of neat. But ladies, one thing you want to do is maintain your scalp and your hair, and guys, same thing too. I actually have castor oil on my head right now. Do you understand? It's really kind of cool and stuff. And so it's like, and it's one thing that a lot of people know. Castor oil, ladies, it's not a joke. I said this, and I've had so many people send me thank you messages for this. Castor oil is very cheap. Do I sell it? Absolutely not. There's great organic brands online. It's not medicinal, so just go get it. It's fantastic. And ladies, crow's feet, right here. And guess what it does? It actually hydrates that area. You ever know that all these people are taking fillers, and those fillers, they still don't know everything's going to come from it, years from now. But nice thing about castor oil, your body can, do wonderful things with that way. It hydrates the skin, makes it smooth, takes a lot of those crow's feet away and stuff like that. It's fantastic. And it's dirt cheap. Man, get some good organic castor oil. I don't have any preferred brand. I have the one I like that way. And then, go from there.
How do you heal severe insomnia?
That's more difficult to answer here, but what you need to do is, because there could be some fight or flight or some neurotransmitter issue, there's gonna be some glutamate issue that's keeping you up at that severity that way. There's some very major immune issue, because your immune system produces the most excitatory neurotransmitter in your body called glutamate, which actually can create a neurological damage. So therefore, what you want to do is find out what's really, aggravating the immune system, and then what I want you to do is support the brain. Well, see, you got to figure out which it is. Otherwise, I can say L-theanine, California poppy, valerian, passion flower. Just trying to think of the things that I know just work on different parts of the brain. I don't mind melatonin either. Help fall asleep that way. L-theanine will help you maintain some sleep. But yeah, so and then but just taking all those herbs is not going to fix your insomnia. It might help, but it's not. You're just going to end up in a situation to where you're just dependent on that for a little bit, and that's not going to work over time if things are still bad. Okay.
Which type of zinc is best absorbed?
Your zinc supplements that are made from oysters. You see them? Because it's in whole food form.
What supplements should a breastfeeding mom take to improve her overall health?
I would say I would start here. Let's not get into supplementation for a breastfeeding mom, even though there are great things. Start with healthy fats, lots of proteins. So lots of proteins, number one, and eat more, fatty-based meats that way, some fishes. Go back to the fact of getting at least 120 grams of protein per day, because then you're gonna significantly have a lot of nutrients you need that you want to supplement with. By nature, you're going to eat at least 1, 2, maybe 3 times a day based on what's going on. Breastfeeding moms need a little bit more calorie intake to produce the amount of milk that they need that way. So I'd encourage them to eat 3, 4 times a day, but protein should be the number one focus. And then what I'd do is I'd take some olive oil. So I want you to picture this. Let's do this. Breastfeeding mom, eggs, some steak, I would say, more carnivore-ish to kind of start. Make sure that you have but we can throw in some Greek yogurt or sheep's yogurt or goat yogurt with some raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, pomegranates. And then what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that on like a platter. And I want you to take olive oil and I want you to drizzle over the whole thing. Some great extra virgin organic olive oil, cold pressed. And then I want you to take some just raw organic honey and I want you to just go over the whole thing. And the amount of nutrients that you have as a breastfeeding mom, to me, would be more important than any supplementation. Now, that being said, I would like to see a woman have their vitamin D levels at a decent level. It's going to help with brain development. There's one thing also that a lot of women are not taught. They're taught a little bit during pregnancy, but iodine is so important for the brains of young children. They've actually done tests and look at the IQ of kids, and with deficiency in iodine, it can lead to neurological development problems. So therefore, I would have the mom take some form of iodine. Now, you could eat sea kelp. I do like sea kelp. Do I always eat it? No. But because sometimes I forget, to be honest, so I supplement with it a little bit. But then what happens is potassium and magnesium. So really, if you can eat the way I kind of explained to you that way, those 4 things are what I supplement with. If you don't eat that way and kind of not get the nutrients you need, I got about $1,000 a month of stuff I have to sell you, plus a bunch of supplement things that are going to cost you an arm and a leg. When if you just get that big old platter, now I'm hungry. Everybody want to have some meat and steak and eggs and honey and olive oil over top of it now. Now I'm like going, yeah, even Tom's like, hey, it sounds damn good. See, like I said, just get a little curry. See, you ever notice that it's like when you got strong, amazing people, I'm surrounded by the best. If you guys saw my room right now, Aiden came in now, I'm surrounded by the best people ever. And it's like you got that gur. Then you get that kind of food you want to kind of tear it up too. You know what I'm saying? All right, we got a chef Lauren here. We need some meat. Okay, anyways, what's next?
What can you do for eye bags?
For what?
Eye bags.
Eye bags? It depends. Depends if there's an adrenal issue. Depends if they're systemically inflamed. Depends if you're hormonally deficient. See, one thing that really bothers me, because I want people to get good information, wording is very important, you know, because the answer is very similar in the middle. Like I forgot to tell you this, Aaron, I forgot to tell you this, it was kind of funny. I had this question yesterday, remember this training? They asked me my opinion on artificial sweeteners. And I'm always going to be on the middle on most stuff. People do not realize that. The only thing I'm not in the middle on, which I will legitimately fight for to death, is people's civil liberties and civil rights. I will literally fight for people's rights to the point, it's no joke. You're gonna laugh about this. And when we come back to the artificial sweetener thing, okay? When COVID came along and I stood up against everything and hired civil attorneys and people thought I was a threat. FBI showed up at my house. Cops were at the end of my driveway. I looked at my family and said, I called my lawyers and said, hey, they arrest me. Guess what happens? I'm fine. Just do what you need to do that way. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to give in to intimidation. I'm not going to give in to this way. And I believe that vast majority of people would have cowered, And, it was crazy. I'm just like, I just can't. When it comes to liberty, when it comes to people's freedoms, and remember, guys, to make it very clear about my political position, I don't want to see you eat bad food. If it was up to me, I wish you never had it, but I fight for your right to eat everything horrible out there. I fight for your right to give your children everything horrible that you want to, because you have a responsibility, you have a choice, you have to do what you have to do that way. Do I want to see anybody do that? Absolutely not. It breaks my heart. If you believe in every vaccine in the world, I fight for your right to give it to every child in the planet for you, for your children, not mine, obviously. But, on the flip side, the minute you try to step on my choices, my liberty, we'll go head to head and I won't back down. You see, so that's one of the very few things that I would die on the hill for, is that right there. So now, that being said, I think a lot of times information, you can be right, but you don't explain it right. Let me give you an example. I had 3 messages yesterday when Trinity asked me about, remember I said, what was my thought on artificial sweeteners? Mm-hmm. Well, my whole thought is I wish they didn't exist, okay? But let's start here. But my answer was very simple. If you're obese, obesity makes everything worse. Heart disease, cancer, everything worse. And sugar is very addictive because it's so emotional. It's not like and that's why people do this. It just brings a lot of pleasure. Do you understand? It's like, it really does. It can really bring a lot of pleasure, especially when people have high stress. And it's a stress reliever in a way, mentally, not physically, but stress reliever. So if somebody drank a diet soda and kept their calories down and lost 100 pounds, overall net benefit, does that make sense? Now, you have to watch out for the neurological symptoms that can come from it. You got to watch out for the GI symptoms that come from it. But it could have been a net positive. But then I believe there's a time that they have to get off that. Otherwise, it's going to be a net negative from the sweetener. You understand? Because there are some people that all of a sudden get some bad news and they're 300 pounds. They say, that's it. And they go cold turkey and they get down to 180 pounds and there's no problems. And they just mentally are that strong. That's not the vast majority of people. That's the exceptions, not the rules. Now, if it's up to me, though, I wish we didn't have them. I think that there's other great sweeteners that they can be, compensated for with maybe like a sugar alcohol, maybe a stevia. You can use aloe xylitol, erythritol, and you're on. But they could have some irritation too and stuff. So you have to see how your body reacts to it, because sometimes it's made out of, corn, and sometimes people react to corn, some people don't. But you have to watch all those things. So, yep.
What is a good routine to jumpstart my morning? I feel sluggish.
A good routine to jumpstart your morning. Well, remember, simply, first of all, light therapy. You want to get into light when you first wake up. You want to move. You do want to move. And sometimes people can exercise, but go to those Vibe plates. Go to a Vibe plate. Get proprioception. If you guys do this, and every in the room do this. Now stop. What do you feel? Tingling. It's like tingling. It's proprioceptive. Do you understand that that's neurologically a good thing? That's why, if you ever noticed, kids that are on the autism spectrum, they're stimming. They're trying to stimulate nerve function and brain response. So therefore, if you vibe or move or something like that in the morning, that will get you going. You'll actually even force your adrenals to put a little bit of cortisol and stuff based on the circadian rhythm. Then what I'd do is this. I'd actually take some licorice, because licorice is going to help you inhibit the breakdown of cortisol. So you're going to keep your cortisol levels a little bit higher. And there you go. People say, just like people are demonizing cortisol, like demonizing insulin. No, I know what you're saying if insulin resistance exists. But insulin is an anabolic hormone. It really is. There's wonderful growth factors that happen in insulin. It's just that it's like glucose. If glucose gets too high for too long a time, it's a bad day. If it stays at a decent level, your brain and other organs can run off it. Some organs run off of fat. Some organs run off of direct glucose that way, and it's a good thing. So therefore, do the things in the morning that stimulate neurological function, that actually support, hormone health, because they'll give you, when you support the adrenals, you also get an adrenaline push, and that'll get you going pretty quickly too.
What can you do for type 1 diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes, you have to be extremely, extremely careful, because there's an autoimmune response. So therefore, anything that triggers the immune response can fluctuate your blood sugar very dramatically, and also the point of death. So what you need to do is make sure that you have a very, very stable diet to make sure your blood sugar stay as normal as you possibly can. That will give you some chance to actually look at the immune factors that have caused damage to your pancreas, and therefore then start taking a pancreas glandular, start taking Syngenta, which actually is known to be regenerative, not just help with blood sugar absorption and its elimination, but also, gives your body the ability to help regenerate some of that pancreas. Once again, I'm frustrated with some of the language. I know what this girl's trying to do, but she's going at it wrong to try to create severity. Just like when people say they look at something bad or good. Natural people just make everything medical bad, and medical people make everything natural bad. And I'm sitting there going, you're both crazy. The answer's in the middle, okay? And those are the things that you have to look at when you look at some of the factors that they're talking about, okay? So what's the next question?
I have a 10-centimeter ovarian cyst.
10-centimeter ovarian cyst.
I started castor oil packs with a heating pad nightly for 2 weeks, and also started drinking chopped garlic, ACV, and orange juice on an empty stomach.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I can do?
With 10-centimeter cyst, there's a lot more you can do, okay? First of all, obviously you had some imaging done. Did the doctor tell you that they could go in and safely remove it? 10-centimeter cyst is pretty large. Once again, I'm kind of in the middle. Yes, there's hormonal inflammatory things that probably cause that. There is no doubt, and they're probably still there. Some of the things you just told me are very good. Would it be something that would be majorly corrective for some of the multiple causal factors that did it? No. But also, be safe. I can honestly tell you this. So therefore, I had a family member that found a tumor on her ovary. And she was young, but she was done having kids. And obviously the doctors wanted to do chemotherapy and everything like that way and stuff, and do some major things that way. And so she came to me, so I flew down where she was. And she's like, what would you do? I said, well, done having kids? Yep. No chance of having their kids? Nope. And I said, then why don't they just take out the ovary? Now, that may freak out somebody when I first say that, but safety is always the first concern of any kind of healthcare, and so you talk about like a cyst that way, it's like, and make sure everything's safe. And technology is pretty good today where at least could go in, and yes, I know there's exceptions to the rule. Someone take a cyst, they ruptured, they died. I hear those stories, I do. But that woman, now it's 30 years later, and she's doing good. We helped her keep her hormones normal. We helped things do quite well. She's vibrant, and stuff of that. And that was a long time ago. That was, apologize, probably 24 years ago. But still a long time ago, and she was young. She was in her 20s and stuff. So that being said, it's just, make sure everything's safe, and don't totally, I'm probably one of the biggest components of seeing the corruption that happens up above medically and things like that. And have to deal with it and see it, and we all see the corruption. That's why I said COVID was one of the greatest things that ever happened, not from a standpoint of what happened, what they did to our country, but you saw what they have been doing to our country behind the scenes that everybody thought we were crazy about talking about. But it's not conspiracy. It's just, conspiracy theorists are people that see things before you do. That's all they are. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's why most people live in a very sheltered world, because remember, the CIA created the term conspiracy theory, from my understanding. I have to look up that. And so, but anyways, last question. What do you got, Trini?
She actually has a follow-up part of it. She's trying to have a baby, so removing the ovary isn't an option right now.
Yeah, but that was like ovarian cancer. They can just go in and remove the cyst. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to remove the ovary. But let's start here. Let's go a little bit more detail. Those cyst formations are very common with a systemic inflammatory response or an androgen problem. So I would get labs done. You already seem like you are educated and doing a lot of good, healthy things, which is fantastic. And if you're listening to me, you know some of my major recommendations of get your protein intake, get your fiber that way. But there's probably some androgen dominance. There are some DHT, testosterone. One of those are going to be significantly a problem, and that's why it's growing. Now remember, some counteraction, make sure you take some chase trees to counteract some of the major negative effects that do happen from cysts that way. But I would still direct you in the way of actually getting your labs done. Okay.
One more. Okay. What can I use to help detox my 2-year-old from heavy metals?
Well, remember, a binding agent is important, but what's more important is supporting all the elimination processes of the body. Make sure that the bowels are moving at a regular basis. So you can do that by water. You can do that by a form of magnesium citrate, which they can take a little bit. My daughters still take it all the time, and they've never had a problem pooping. But you support that. You support the liver, and liver can be supported by a little bit of milk thistle. It can be supported by some dandelion root. You can even take a little bit of tea form that way if they're young enough. You're going to then, once you have the organs of elimination working quite well and supported, then you can actually do every once in a while like some zeolite under, being monitored that way by some practitioner, because once again it's a binding agent. It's which is going to have an effect of circulation and actually do some things. And remember, I want you to think of it this way: medicinal mushrooms. Mushrooms are really good at binding to toxic things and helping them remove. So you have the good support, the good binders, and make sure that the organs of elimination, especially the bowels, are moving on a regular basis. All right, we've got time for one more question. One more question.
My 2-year-old daughter frequently gets sty eyes on both her lids. What could be causing it, and what would be the best remedy to get rid of them?
When something like that happens, I'm really concerned about vitamin A and vitamin D deficiency, because there's a lubrication problem that happens. So what I do is I would actually, cod liver oil is going to be really good. I'd actually even put some castor oil around, not on the lid itself, but around the area to try to bring hydration in there and make sure things are, moving through there quite nicely. But vitamin A is probably one of the biggest things I think they're deficient in, which is very common in kids because most people don't eat enough vitamin A. That's why my daughters have always eaten liver, because then they get a significant amount of vitamin A, and that's why their skin and all the things, they never have a problem. Like we talked about I think last week we talked about it. People look at my daughter's skin, they're like, dang, your girls have nice skin. I'm like, it's because of what they eat. You know what I'm saying? That's why they don't know what acne is. They don't know what all those things are that way, because we've set them up for their system to work well. So that's a big factor when it comes to especially eyes and eyelids and styes and things like that. There's usually some vitamin A and vitamin D deficiency. So that being said, guys, thanks for jumping on. As always, we appreciate you guys. We will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, ADP is our continued series on cholesterol and statins. We will see you guys soon.